Hey, this is Nicole from Black Woman Black Belt. In my escape pod, it is not complete yet, but I did get a couch. I love this couch. It's a nice couch. Neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and get into this Profiles in Badassery. I interviewed Erin Harpe. She is a black belt out of Tampa, Florida. She and her husband own a gym named Gracie Apollo Beach, which one of these days, because it's in Florida, I want to go and visit. She has been rolling since she was 5 years old. She's 25 now. She's been rolling since she was 5 years old. So needless to say, Erin is pretty tough. Her resume is very impressive for her young age. She was a world champion blue and purple belt IBJJF. She fought in Abu Dhabi grappling competition. She was the grappling competition champion. She's fought MMA professionally under Invicta FC and was undefeated. And recently she went back to more jiu-jitsu and fought in the WNO. It's a grappling tournament. There was some big names, including, like, for example, Gabby Garcia. But Erin, as I understand, she is not the type to back down from any fight. She's very tough. She's been made tough by her dad. It's not like she had a choice in the matter. She has gone through a lot. We just go through her highs and her lows. So stick around, because hopefully you get as much from the interview as I did. Let's do it. First thing I always say to everybody that comes on to that I interview is, welcome, fellow badass. Thank you for your time. I would like for you to introduce yourself.
Again, I'm Erin. I've been training jiu-jitsu for a little over 20 years now. I'm a black belt out of Gracie Tampa South and co-owner at Gracie Apollo Beach. I started my jiu-jitsu journey really by force. My dad is a black belt under Royce Gracie directly, and he started jiu-jitsu a year before I was born. So I actually, the same age you started jiu-jitsu. You said 36, I think? 36 or 37?
34. I started at 34.
Oh, so he started a little later. Yeah, so he started a little later in jiu-jitsu. So that's why I said, you'll get your black belt. My dad got his at 60. So.
Ooh, 60. I would love. Okay, 34, 60. What happened? Was it just kind of the life happened, had kids, all that good stuff?
It might have not been 60. I might be adding a couple years on my dad. It was like maybe 50, 57 around there, but still high 50s. With Royce, he's very traditional, and I think it was just a long road for my dad, and it took me 20 years to get mine. So, and at that point, my dad didn't really care about how long the process was going to take. And same thing, with how I feel too. I feel like I learned more at black belt now than any of the other belts that I had. So surprising to say. But anywho, he forced me into jiu-jitsu. I absolutely hated it growing up. I absolutely hated it just because he was having me do adult classes too very young. And he's a militant too, old school. Like, if you think of the movie like Major Payne, like that is my dad. Cowboy boots and a hat. Like, that's my dad.
Yeah, I did kind of go to his page too, because I remember on another podcast, I forgot the guy's podcast name. I forgot. I would give him a shout out if I remember.
Probably Jamie with Rear Naked Radio, I think.
Yes, it was Rear Naked Radio. That's the one. I was like, I was watching that, and then like before I interview people, I kind of like to look and see, all right, because there's always something interesting to learn about someone. And in your case, like I was like, wow, this is very interesting. And I was like, well, let me look at her dad, see what's going on with him. And I was like, yep, cowboy boots. Or cowboy. I saw the cowboy hat. I saw like your wedding and all that good stuff, and he is super proud of you. I could see with all the like the post that he has of you. I think it's wonderful and hilarious all at the same time. But it took you 20 years. What age did you start jujitsu?
So, my earliest memory was like around 5 years old. I went through all the kids' belts. Yeah, I went through. I got my blue belt like a week before I turned 16. I had that for 4 years. At purple belt, I had my purple belt I think for 2.5, 3. But at brown belt, I tore my LCL and PCL completely from my knee. So I was out for a year. So that kind of pushed me back a little bit. And then I got my black belt at around 25, 24, 25.
Oh, so you're a baby. You
Oh,
like
I'm still a baby. My knees are 80 years old, but like everything else is great.
oh, that's jujitsu. Just
Yes.
like
And I tell people, like, my dad, he's 63 now. He has like severe arthritis. So if that's the only thing I have to worry about, like everything else is doing good, like that's not so bad.
yeah. If I get to black belt unscathed, I will be thankful to God because it's like I got wood right here. Luckily, I'm sitting on wood. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to get hurt. I do not want to get hurt. I'm like, once you get to black belt, I get hurt. I'll be like, okay, well, but I don't want to get hurt from now till then, which hopefully won't be that terribly long. But like, it's just, it is almost par for the course. But I almost feel like this is my philosophy. If I'm gonna get crippled, might as well do getting crippled, learning how to defend myself. So, needless to say, that's kind of where I am on that. So,
I love that. I'm
you
about to new students that, honestly.
saying,
I'm about to start telling new students that, honestly. Like, wouldn't you rather risk your body, which is very minimum, training jujitsu, you get bumps and bruises, but you're not like physically putting yourself at huge risk. But so many people go to the gym and work out at a fitness center and break their back or, pull muscles easily. I'm about to start using that line. That was good.
you started at 5 years old in the adult classes the whole time, or did you have?
Oh, no, yeah. I would say I started an adult class at around 9. That's when my dad pushed me into adult class. But the kids class was only like 4 other kids. Like it wasn't a huge deal class. But again, I was coming home super late, and my dad really pushed competitions on me too. And so at the point when I went to high school, I was like, screw jujitsu, I'm gonna try other sports. So I was training maybe once a month. Once I hit high school, and I was running track. I played soccer for a couple years, but I really ran with track. Uh, and as my senior year hit, I got a track scholarship, but I got nerve damage in my feet. So I got like flat feet. Like, I'll show you.
Dang, dang, that's pretty flat. That's pretty damn flat.
Have custom orthotics and everything, but they said if you want to run full time, you're gonna have to have surgery and stuff. So I was like, screw this. And once I was going to nursing school out in Brooklyn, around the corner from the college was a jujitsu school, and I was like, well, I got to start doing something again. So I kind of like re-fell in love with jujitsu when I hit college.
You tore your ligaments. Like, what was the ACL and the?
It was LPC, and they were completely like off, like grade 3. Yeah, the LCL is on the outside of the knee, and then the PCL is in the back. And then I have this mean scar, like from it. Yeah. So I tell my kids I just got bit by a shark. Like I tell my students. versus knee surgery.
Hey, it works. I would do it. Like, hey, yeah, I got bit by a shark. That's you said you fell in love with jujitsu, and I always like to go through everybody's like life in jujitsu. So, when did you fall in love with it the first time? Because I know at 9 years old, if your dad literally just threw you in with the sharks, literally, quite well, maybe not literally, but figuratively threw you in with the sharks at 9, and that's gotta be hard. That's because you are dealing with people that are full on trying to kill you, and you're just a little girl. So what was that one moment where you were just like, this is the best thing ever?
So it's funny because my dad made sure like his students weren't like going super easy on me either. He made sure I had the mentality of like kill or be killed, like completely in class. And growing up, I had the dream of like being the first female UFC fighter and like doing martial arts as an adult. But I think especially when you're young, if you're pushed a little bit too much, like ahead of your pace, you get sick of it. We see that a lot with kids. If they get pushed too much, or if it becomes too hard, they want to just scrap it. But when I fell in love with jujitsu, or was starting to fall in love, like 16, 17, I saw the true importance of jujitsu, especially at 17. I had a ex-boyfriend that like we got into an altercation and I had to put him in a triangle, and I was like, wow, like thank you jujitsu, like thank you so much. Uh, and of course, when you're young, you don't think anything's going to happen to you until it does. So to answer your question, I fell in love. I always loved it. Like I knew it was important, but didn't really know the importance of it until I got older. And I honestly think it was just learning from my dad. My poor dad was just wearing too many hats. Like he had a dad hat, coach hat, conditioning hat, and me learning from someone else, like once I got into college, kind of helped that falling in love process. My dad was like, you should be able to learn from me, but but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. Especially when your sensei is your dad.
When did you get your black belt?
It's December of 2019.
So I saw that you competed and you won that, and then the world shut down. I always like to ask black belts, because you already had 20 years under your belt. How did you survive that pandemic? How did you get through that? Like, that's rough. It was rough.
Well, I was very fortunate. My husband's a black belt as well, and we own our own academy, so I was able to train with him. But outside of that, I was doing my own like solo jujitsu drills and like hit workouts too. We did a lot of our classes through Zoom. We had a lot of our students chime into Zoom, which was hard, but it was awesome that people were still trying to get their training. But yeah, I was very fortunate. I was still able to train on our little area mat in our living room. I'm fortunate, but I'm sure you didn't get any access to anything, huh?
Not really. I'd say from about March to about June, there was
Oh,
no.
gosh.
Yeah, it was a. I would say it probably was. Let me see. March to June, was it June or July? It was really like 3 or 4 months. The only thing we did was, for example, one of my friends up in Indianapolis, AJ Klingerman, she had a online drilling, and then I would catch other online drillings. But pretty much, I just worked on my fitness. I lost a bunch of weight. Here's a good question: when did you open your own gym? Because that I was looking at, I probably should have asked that before when you got your black belt, because I remember you got your black belt after you opened your gym. So when did you open your gym, and how did you and your now husband, congratulations, y'all just got married, decide to go into becoming gym owners?
Perfect. So we opened Gracie Apollo Beach February of 2018. So we've been open a little over 3 years. I was a two-stripe brown belt when we opened, I believe. Two-stripe, maybe three. And my husband already got his black belt. But before then, we were both teaching at all of the sister gyms that we have in our network. We're part of the Gracie Tampa network. It's under Rob Kahn, who's a Hoist Gracie black belt. And there's literally like 10 gyms in like 100-mile radius that we're associated with. So we were teaching at two. And with Lewis, he is like a magician with kids, like teaching kids. He knows like the right things to say. Like I'm biased, but I've never seen anyone like so good with kids, and especially at a young age too. So he had a lot of parents offering to invest into opening his, like our own gym, and uh, with both of us together, like both male and female head instructors, we thought that would really promote like a comfortable, safe environment and family environment too. That's what we really strive to show. Like we call ourselves the Gab family for a reason, you know. And yeah, we absolutely love it. We have now we have around 115, 120 members. Mostly our kids, though. Our kids programs are thriving. Crixus, kids, sorry. He just wants to be in here. But during COVID, we almost lost our gym. We lost like 50% revenue. So we were freaking out. We thought we were going to be closed down for good. But luckily, we had some like students come in to and like help us and everything to keep us afloat. Can you lay down? And yeah, good thing we're still kicking it. Now everything's great now that everything's open.
You had done a fight. When was your last fight?
So my last fight was August of 2019. And so I won that fight, and then I had surgery that October. I had a cyst on my tailbone. Yeah, like it was bad, man. Like so I couldn't fight anymore on that year, and then the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you have a fight before that? I mean, I'm sorry, not before that, but after that.
After
the pandemic.
So it was Invicta, and then the surgery, and then pandemic, and then after the pandemic, I've been doing jujitsu since there's now like more opportunity for money in jujitsu, because that was my primarily reason doing MMA. I mean, I love MMA. It's like a whole like primal experience, you know, going into the cage and fighting someone, very similar to competing, but I was chasing that for the money aspect, and now we have Who's Number One. We have all these different platforms of like sub-only tournaments and everything to earn money. Because before MMA too, I was doing worlds and Abu Dhabi's and all that stuff, but I didn't have any sponsors, so I'm just broke. You know, it's cool. I'm a world champion, but I'm broke as shit.
Yeah, but I remember you said you were an MMA fighter. When did you start MMA?
So I moved down to Florida around 2013, 2014 to start my MMA career. And I did 2 amateur fights. My first one was in 2014. I was a purple belt. And then, so that was August. And then I had another one in October. After being 2-0, coach couldn't find like any more amateur fights for me. So we went up to Maine to do a pro fight. He was like, screw it, let's go pro. And that was, oh my God, that was 2016, right before my, and won that fight TKO. Then after that fight that next year, that's when I injured myself, was out for a year. And it really took me some time coming back into MMA. It took me almost 4 years just from trying to get my training regimen back. When I hurt my knee, I gained 55 pounds. Like I got all the way up to 205 because I was completely depressed. Like not being able to walk. You know, you get really, really at low point. So I had to get all that weight off, make sure I was in shape and ready to go. And yeah, I started back up in 2019. But it's just so funny that the pandemic hit and all this stuff. But now I'm jiu-jitsu now.
So, like, because I'm going to guess that, and this is one of the questions I usually ask anyways, I'm going to guess once you had that knee surgery and you tore your PCL and MCL and ACL, like all the alphabet CL, because you obviously just tore your knee all the way up.
I should have.
I'm gonna guess that would be your lowest point in your journey. Could I possibly say that would be the lowest?
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Purple and brown were kind of like crazy belt journeys for me. I like hit an awesome high as far as like competing. I like won worlds back to back with like blue and purple, and I went to Abu Dhabi and all this stuff. And then like suddenly I was getting a lot of like anxiety and panic attacks out of nowhere, and it wouldn't even be from competing. It would be from like just over exercising and overworking. And you know, when I was young, I was either super lazy or overdriven and draining myself and to like a near point where, you know, I would pass out. Like there was no balance. Like now I have a very good balance with like recovery and training. Like I've gotten to that point, thank goodness. But before, like there was this polar opposite spectrum. And so that was right before my knee got injured. And the situation that popped my knee was so freak. Like it was the beginning of a roll. I literally hit hands with my partner, who's like a little bit smaller than me. I just go in to play De La Hiva, and he pushes down on my knee, and it just pops. So I think it was probably partially tore, and then when he just pushed down to defend the De La Hiva, it just completely bursted. And so just the thought of that freak accident with my knee surgery and all that, it was very much the lowest point ever. I didn't know if I was going to come back like into fighting, let alone competing. And I relied so much of my identity with accomplishments. And when you only have one leg, not doing shit, you know, that gets you, you know what I mean? So I did a lot of like self learning about myself, and you know, just creating that healthy balance mentally for me to be able to compete later on.
So what in that time did you learn and did you tell yourself to get through that period, because it had to be rough?
Yeah, absolutely. A big thing I implemented was meditation. Like I still do daily meditations. I think it's super important to calm your mind, at least for a little bit day to day. And I told myself to take my time. It takes forever in jiu-jitsu just to get from one belt to another. Why am I going to rush, you know, this healing process, you know? And I really did not want to re-injure my knee. The first 2-3 months of me back into training, I was not even rolling on my right side. Like I had, if I was playing guard, it was literally with this leg up. Like I was completely not using my leg at all. Almost think of it like a self-defense situation. Like, okay, you have a bad leg. Like now what? And just really being patient with myself. And anytime I felt like, oh, like I know I'm way better than this, or I know where I used to be, I scratch that. I'm like, you're not going to go back to that, Erin. You're doing a new and improved, evolved Erin who's been through some shit and, you know, got crumbled and it rebuilt stronger than ever, and it's going to be okay.
You went through that, you came back, pandemic hit, y'all almost went under. You didn't go under, thankfully. I'm just happy about that. And then after that, yeah, what has, like, even after the pandemic and all of that, how has that changed the way that you teach your students at?
Absolutely. I continue to tell my students that they're at their own jujitsu pace, like their own jujitsu journey. You can always pause it and press play. You know, you don't have to worry about being super consistent or worrying about the guy that started the same day as you getting better, you know, not to worry about other people's journeys on the mat. And to also find their purpose. You know, a lot of people find their purpose in jujitsu with like competing and like winning medals and stuff like that, which is great. But we forget why we join jujitsu. We join jujitsu to learn self defense, to defend ourselves. But like more essential branches of that isn't competing is it's an outlet, it's a stress reliever, it, you know, cures and or lowers our anxiety. And especially with the kids, I try to make sure like find your purpose in jiu-jitsu, find why you keep on coming and to practice every day, like knowing that it's hard and knowing that it's going to be challenging you. And especially with my kids, I'm like, life's hard. That's why you're in jujitsu, to make it easier for you.
God, yes. Woo, Lord, yes. um, Now, I would say, like, what you were saying is like find your purpose in jujitsu. What would you say that your purpose in jujitsu is?
Oh, I love that question. So I mean, I love competing. I love being a fighter. That's cool and stuff. But I truly think my purpose is to empower people with jujitsu. I like that speaks to my heart. Like just thinking of like me teaching and the difference that has made from our kids to our adults, like warms my heart. Like nothing is more rewarding than teaching someone a move and seeing them do it in a tournament or rolling, or them coming up to you, hey coach Erin, like I did that move that you taught last Tuesday, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Or just seeing people blossom, you know, like just doing 6 months of jujitsu, you're seeing them really come out of their shell. They look healthier. I think that makes a way more difference than competing sometimes. And as far as like competing, you know, I always love to spread awareness on shit that people don't like to talk about. So I think that's super important too.
And I'm going to ask one last question, and here it is. Well, actually, two questions. I'll split it up into two questions. If there's anything that you could change about the jiu-jitsu community at this point, what would it be? Well, if there's anything that you could change, and if there's anything that you could keep the same, what would those two things be? Like, if there's one thing that you could keep, let that stay. Because I always like to give positive and negative. So if there's one thing you could keep, you'd keep that. If there's one thing you could get rid of, you would get rid of it, and why?
Perfect. So there's actually two things I'd get, or three. I'm piling them up now. So one thing I would definitely want to get rid of is with jujitsu, the community initially is very like belonging and welcoming, and you meet all walks of life on the mat, but not all walks of life are fully supported. So I think a lot of jiu-jitsu academies need to stop turning their head and, you know, be of support of all of their students, you know, including us. Like when they see a student suffering or in hurt, you know, reaching out to them and, you know, being there for them. I think that's huge. One, this is a little bit random, but I see it a lot more in the martial arts community. People still being okay with people who have had sexual misconduct with younger students or sexually harassed younger students and continuing to train with that person. That is absolutely not okay. And thirdly, men babying women on the mat. There's a difference between
I hate that. It's like you gotta know that balance. You gotta know that balance between, okay, give her a little bit more force versus okay, don't destroy her. It's like it's a fine balance, and men don't always know that. So
Yeah. How about you meet that woman at her experience level? How about you learn to, you can restrain your strength, but not your technique, you know? And a lot of grapplers don't really learn how to be fully technical until they're a purple belt. So that
and sometimes later.
yeah, thanks. So that plays a role, and it can be hard too. But I tell the guys all the time, like, listen, if you baby any of the girls in here, they're gonna rip your arm off. Don't baby them. Like, encourage them, meet them at their experience level, and don't be a dick. You know.
Yeah. And last question is this: after, is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you would tell a woman going into jujitsu that you would like them to know that we haven't mentioned? So
If you're thinking about starting jujitsu or just started jujitsu, just know this might be one of the most empowering things that you can do. Like you said, like being able to choke out a guy at will when they're fighting, it's like super empowering. Since we're in this man's world, we're in this man.
feels great.
You know, I try to tell my husband that. He's like, oh, you sound like a crazy lady. But I'm like, no, seriously, it's very empowering when we live in a society where a man is supposed to save us and we're a damsel in distress. Like, do your own and trust the process. Take your time with it. The I personally think the best belt in jiu-jitsu is your purple belt. I think that's where you really evolve and you have the most fun and you're creative. Brown belt sucks. Brown belt's the worst belt. And then you get your black belt and you press that reset button and you're learning all over again. Jitsu too, just like it is to know how to swim and know how to breathe properly. You know, you need to know how to defend yourselves. And people forget the first ancestral warriors were women too, especially in Africa and Benin are the first Amazonians and everything. So channel that inner spirit, girl.
Well, Erin, I thank you for your time. From here, I'm going to say thank you. And hopefully I'll see you on the mats. All right.